What is good, my kings, queens, and everything in betweens? I'm not too sure where to begin in this video, but we're going to do this one a little bit different compared to when we covered the whole cap on Soul Earth mess. Safe to say no one's feelings are at risk of getting hurt this time around. So for those that aren't aware, Nexon Korea has recently been sued for millions of dollars by what's known as the Fair Trade Commission in Korea. This fine essentially was because after the FTC conducted an extensive investigation on the backend numbers regarding some of the game's RNG based systems, they concluded that Nexon Korea had messed with the probability rates of black cubes at various points in time, and the key part is they did this without letting the players know. So typical shady Nexon, or rather typical shady business stuff in general. Well, today, the heads of MapleStory Korea, Wonky and I don't know the other guy's name, Song Chuk or something like that, Song Chi, I don't know his name, but they released a statement with some rather jaw-dropping changes that they plan to implement into their version of the game in coming weeks and upcoming test beta servers for KMS. I'll link the full invent post that you guys are seeing on your screens in the description right below that like button so you guys can check it out for yourselves. But essentially, they're going to be removing red and green cubes altogether while making black and white cubes only available via Meso. So basically, cubing is going to be completely free and cost Meso only in reg servers, pretty much similar to how Reboot has been doing it this entire time. Not only that, but by the looks of how this whole system works, cubing is going to work a lot less like cubing and a lot more like resetting an ability based on what I'm seeing. This could be wrong, but what I mean is you'll essentially be paying Meso directly onto your equip in order to reroll its potential. And since only black and white cubes are a thing, it means you'll always have the option to choose either your old potential or the one you just rolled. Now, because of these changes, and as well as to combat botting, based on their own words, they have also chosen to put a limit on how much Meso players are going to be able to farm per day. And if there's anything we've learned recently, it's how much we all absolutely love having a cap on something. The amount of Meso players can farm daily will be directly correlated with what level they are, as seen by the chart here on the invent post. But essentially at level 260 and above, players will be able to farm 150 Meso per day, plus some, extra 10 mil per 10 levels. So if you're level 270, you can farm 160 mil per day, etc., etc. Which according to Steve from the YouTube channel X3 the RN59 takes about 5 hours of farming for KMS reg server players to obtain. Now you can see by the other chart on this invent post that a single black cube roll costs 51 mil Meso on a legendary level 160 equip. So I'm not sure how KMS players feel about these numbers at this time, but being able to cube an item only 3 times after 5 hours of farming seems awful. Of course, this is all relating to reg server though, in which case you can make Meso through other means such as selling boss drops or other services, etc. But that's where all of this gets really, really scary, because also in these changes, they announced that Reboot, I almost hate when they even announce Reboot, but they announced that Reboot will be adopting the same Meso rates as reg server players. We recently adopted the same EXP rates as reg servers, along with the same mob levels and associated FD scaling as reg servers, and apparently now it's time we also adopt their Meso rates. Now, I want to remind everyone that these changes are all currently specific to KMS, so they may or may not even ever come to us in GMS, but at the same time, I do feel like I'd be a fool if I said I wasn't starting to notice a pattern. Logically speaking, it doesn't make sense to have these tweaks made to Reboot, but knowing Nexon, they probably will be. The reason a daily cap on Meso farming doesn't make sense specifically in Reboot is because aside from selling boss crystals, a feature that also exists in reg server, killing mobs is Reboot's only way of making Meso. It also doesn't make sense to put a cap on farming Meso on Reboot, because if part of the reason why they're making these changes is to combat botting and how that may affect the economy in the game, then Reboot should be dismissed by default from the equation, because in Reboot you can't trade between players, so the amount of Meso we farm does not at all have anything to do with, there is no economy in Reboot. You farm for what you can use on your own account, your own character, and it is not affecting or influencing any other aspect of the game besides your own account. So with that in mind, Reboot should, in my mind, just be removed from the equation altogether. And even though they explicitly say that Reboot will be adopting the same Meso rates as Reg server, I can't imagine them actually putting a cap on how much Meso Reboot players are able to farm per day. But that's all the news stuff out of the way. However, I did want to leave you guys with two speculatory ideas. Number one being that in my mind, these changes are very little to do, honestly, with them being caught doing shady things with cubes. But it's rather just a good opportunity and kind of perfect timing for them to make cubes available from Meso in order to introduce a completely new way of upgrading gear in the game shortly in the future. Because currently in MapleStory, you can scroll, you can Star Force, you can flame, and you can cube your equips. Flames being the latest addition to the game, which came out God knows who long ago. I'm not going to bother looking it up, but Flame came out a little while ago. But it makes sense that they alleviate this pressure from players buying cubes in order to introduce a new upgrading system that costs real money. So this way, like, there's a little bit of a buffer time. Everyone's paying for cubes with, Meso. No money is going towards that system. This way players aren't stressed out about having to pay for scrolling, star forcing, cubing, and whatever the new system they plan to release is, but rather this new system can simply take the place of cubing and be even more of a welcome change to the game, since players no longer have to spend real money on cubes themselves. We can make a whole video on speculating why and what the next upgrading system can or will be, or if there will even be one to begin with, but either way, that entire thing is for another time. What I will say though is personally I expect them to release a completely new way to upgrade your character or your gear in the Korean summer patch of 2024, alongside the announcement of a new endgame boss. I think those two things paired together are going to make the summer for Korean MapleStory an absolute banger and something that a lot of players can look forward to when that time comes around. Moving on, the second idea I have is that bonus potentials can potentially come to Reboot servers. With cubes becoming completely Meso based in Reg servers, it means that Nexon can add them to Reboot without Reg server players feeling upset about all the free damage that Rebooters can get without spending any money on the game. The only way it doesn't come to Reboot in my mind is because KMS simply doesn't care to go through the effort to make the change, or because they don't want to make Reboot any more enticing for players in KMS until the new upgrading system is actually implemented. Speaking of which, the new system, if and when that is released, I don't expect that new system to be implemented into Reboot at all. So it would suck a little bit in that sense, but if we do get bonus potentials, then essentially Reboot players are kind of going to be happy because we have something more to work on and look forward to and get stronger in that way, while Reg server players are also still going to be happy because they have that brand new system that they're able to spend real money on and work on progressing as well. So I think it's going to be a way that most players are happy. Of course, there's going to be the people that are bitter one way or another, but that's just the way I picture things unfolding. But yeah, that's all for this time, guys. What are your thoughts and opinions? Leave them in the comment section right below that like button, and let me know how you guys feel about bonus potentials possibly coming to Reboot, because personally, I'm down to clown, baby.